Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we take a brave step into the new world of amp modelling. Well, it's not a particularly brave step, or indeed a new step, but it is for me because I have been acquainted with the Line 6 Pod Go, and I've never really been much of a modelling person. I've always preferred to have the traditional route of amps, cabs and pedals to make my tones, but modelers are becoming more and more accepted in the grand scheme of things. Technology doesn't seem to be as important or as crucial as it once was to get good guitar tones, and finally I've taken a bit of a plunge and got a Line 6 Pod Go in to see what all the fuss is about. Now, I first came into contact with this unit at 42 Gear Street in the summer of 2021. I did a video on PJD guitars with Kranar Chilku, another great YouTuber, check him out at the links there, and Kranar dialed up some tones on the Pod Go before we shot the video, the PJD guitars video, and I was so impressed at how quick and easy it was for him to get tones that sounded to me to be as good as pretty much all of the amps in the room. And so I had a chat with the guys from Line 6 and Yamaha, and here we are now. They've sent me a Pod Go to check out and see what I can do with it. I haven't been paid to make this video. I shan't be getting this product for free or anything like that. I'll have to send it back afterwards probably, unless I choose to buy it. But what we're going to do on this channel is go on a bit of a journey with the Pod Go, I think, and see what we can do with it. Now, the Pod Go, of course, is the newest of the modelers, kind of in the Helix family from Line 6, and this basically is amplifiers, cabinets, microphones, effects, everything you could ever need in one little box. It's got a bunch of different foot switches too. It's got an expression pedal there as well, so you can basically make any sound in the world with this thing, and you can also connect it to pretty much anything. You can go straight to headphones, you can go straight to a mixer, you can go straight to a cabinet as standard. The world is your oyster with the Pod Go. So what we're going to do today then is see how it competes against my bass Hughes Kettner Black Spirit 200 setup with the pedals that I generally use on this channel. Now, with the Black Spirit 200, you might be saying that's not the world's simplest amp anyway. No, it's not, of course. The Hughes Kettner amps are kind of pretty much close to modelers in terms of the tweaking options that they give you, but I've got bass tones that I love on that amp. So I've got a clean tone that does everything for me. I've got a light crunch tone. I've got the lead channel working as well. I've never managed to find a metal tone on the Ultra channel that I liked, but for that I have the Rev G3 distortion pedal, which just works for everything. So I'm going to use the Black Spirit 200 head, I'm going to use my Rev G3 pedal, and I'm going to also use my favorite Greer light speed overdrive pedal for a bit of light and medium crunch as well. And what I'm going to try and do with the Pod Go in this one is make a couple of presets or different sounds and see how close I can get them to my original rig. Now, I gave myself a little bit of a time limit. I gave myself 15 minutes to dial in those tones, and I wasn't kind of comparing and directly A-Bing them as I made them. I had the tones that I like from my Black Spirit 200 and my pedals in my head, and I tried to get as close as I could with the Pod Go. We're going to hear the results of those now. I've chosen to film this video exclusively with my Epiphone Les Paul on the full humbucker mode because I really like the way that Les Paul pushes the clean channel of the Black Spirit 200. It almost sends it into breakup, and I've often heard that with modelers one of the biggest issues is both the feel and the tone when it comes to these cleaner edge of breakup light overdrive sounds. That's where they really struggle to compete with so-called real amps. So that's what we're going to hear now. I'm not going to tell you until after the playing part which rig is which, so you'll see a rig A and a rig B written down at the bottom, and afterwards I'll give you my opinions. I'll tell you what I thought of the two sounds and what I thought of dialing in the tones on the Pod Go, and I'll also reveal which of the rigs was the Black Spirit 200 and which was the Pod Go. Enough talk then. What we're going to do right now is find out if I can take this $450 Pod Go and replace my $1,500 rig with it in one fell swoop. Let's play them now and we'll speak in more detail about them afterwards. Okay then, so that was the Line 6 Pod Go versus the Hughes Kettner Black Spirit 200 head with the Greer Lightspeed overdrive and the Rev G3 distortion pedal, and I hope you liked the playing and the tones. Now, you'll have heard straight away that there were some quite significant differences between some of the sounds, and some of the sounds were actually rather similar. So now's the final chance for you to leave your comments down there telling me which of the rigs you thought was the Black Spirit 200 and which you thought was the Pod Go, because now I'm about to reveal to you that Rig A was indeed the Black Spirit 200 with the pedals, and Rig B was the Pod Go. Did you get it right? Did you get it wrong? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys think about it as well. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions too, and I'm going to share those with you now. But let me take you back to when I first got to play the Pod Go, when I got one sent to me at home. When I first plugged it in, what my thoughts were. Initially I was very disappointed because it just didn't sound as good as my standard rig does. Now of course you do take time to get into new sounds and new pieces of gear and equipment, but there's so much to get into with a modeler that I was a little bit overwhelmed at first. You have so many tone tweaking options in here, there are so many amplifiers and cabinets and microphones built into it that you just don't know where to begin. And there are a bunch of different presets built into the Pod Go, but I found most of them to do what the presets on most modelers do, which was to be way too extreme for my general sort of use. I guess I'm not really the standard kind of modeling guy, am I? Because at the end of the day, I play a lot of indie and a lot of classic rock and stuff like that. I don't have loads and loads of complex effects chains going on. I really like a light to medium overdrive, sometimes a nice pristine clean with a bit of reverb on it, and that's about it. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is seeing how good the Pod Go really is in comparison to a more traditional rig. But anyway, I played the Pod Go over the few days after I had it. I've had it for a few weeks now, and I spent some time dialing in some different sounds and seeing what the different effects would do. And at first what I tried to do was go with some of its more Fendery clean amps, and I would add effects pedals to the chains there. I would put overdrives in, there's a bunch of different drives. I would try fuzz pedals, I would use the EQ pedals that they had as well. I would try and do different things with reverbs to try and get it sounding more like a real rig. I then came to realize that probably that was not the right approach, at least for me with the Pod Go, and what I would need to do would be to make specific presets or snapshots of presets for each individual sound that I needed, and that's actually what I ended up doing for this video today. What I'll just do now, for those of you who want to know, is just go into a quick extreme close-up view of the Line 6 Pod Go, and I'll explain what I did with those presets. So here's the close-up of the Pod Go then, with that beautiful colour screen, which actually is a very, very good plus point for the Pod Go, I have to say. It makes things really, really easy and simple to see. You know what you're doing at all times. Great screen. I really, really like it. But anyway, back to those presets. Originally, I thought I would just be able to make one. I'd start off with a bass clean tone, and I would add some drive pedals to that, which I could bring in and out as I needed them for crunch tones, for classic rock, for hard rock, and even for the metal stuff later on. But it quickly became apparent with the Pod Go, for me at least, that I wasn't going to be able to do that, because for some reason the drive pedals just didn't give me the results I was looking for. So I ended up making separate presets for the crunchy tones with a Marshall type amp, and also for the metal tones, which was going after the Rev G3 tone. So what we have here is Bank 32 on the Pod Go. You can see that there, and there's 4 different presets in the bank. The imaginatively titled Rich 1, Rich 2, and Rich 3. So Rich 1 was the original. I'll just click it on now. And you can see that I have 6 different options with the 6 different foot pedals here. Underneath the clean tone, I could have added the Time, which is their take on the Timmy pedal, the Heir Apparent, which is their take on the King of Tone, or the Vermin Distortion, which is their take on the Rat. And I, of course, could have mixed and matched those two, and you can see those going on and off as I activate and deactivated them. I also had a spring reverb running at all times, and a lot of the amps come with an EQ already activated, and that just seems to brighten them up and sparkle them up a little bit more, so I kept that on at all times. So that was the first preset then, and I used that for the clean tones. Once we went up to the crunch and indie and classic rock tones, I realized, like I said, that I needed something a little bit different, and for that I ended up making Rich 3, the preset that we can see here, and that was based on a Marshall Plexi amp in the Pod Go, and what I basically did there was add in the option of having the Minotaur, which is their Klon Centaur model. We also have a spring reverb there, and the Cali EQ graphic EQ was engaged at all times. Once we got up to the metal parts, then we went back to Rich 2, preset 32B, and that looks a little bit like this. I went for the Rev amp. For that one, the Rev model that they have, I added a tube screamer for that, an 808. I had a spring reverb too, because I like to have that just to take away a little bit of the dryness. I'm not super chuggy, it doesn't have to be 100% tight for me. And we also had the Cali EQ graphic EQ going. So those were the three presets that I used, and now on with the video. So when I was dialing up those presets to use in this video, I was actually in a place where I kind of knew where I would want to go, and I gave myself 15 minutes to dial them in, and we've heard the results. And at the end of the day, you know, there are some significant differences between the Black Spirit 200 and the Pod Go. And I have to say overall that despite the massive versatility and the connectivity and the practicalities of the Pod Go, at the moment, for me personally, I'm not quite there with the sounds. I'm going to spend the next few weeks and months trying to kind of dial it in more and get it closer to my Black Spirit 200 rig and the other amp tones that I like. And what I'm also going to have to do is do a lot of forum deep diving and work out what the best results are going to be for me. One thing I really struggle with modelers is the idea of option paralysis, the fact that you have so many little tweakable things that you can change, and they all alter the tone in a way that is different to how it would be altered if you were using a traditional tube or solid state amp. There are so many things just within the cabinet selections and within the amp head selections. You've got bias controls, you've got hum, you've got all the traditional EQ controls, you can choose how close your mic is to your cabinet, you can choose between umpteen different kinds of microphones. It's too much for me. I just want to get a sound that I like and stick with it, like I do with Redbox choice number 5 on the Black Spirit 200 Redbox options. That's set and forget for me, and I'm absolutely fine with that. One other point that I've noticed just from doing a little bit of Line 6 research up to now is the fact that most people seem to think that the built-in cabinets on the Pod Go and on the Line 6 Helix devices as well don't really cut the mustard, and at the end of the day what most people would recommend you do is purchase third-party external IRs in order to make your amp sound more authentic and to give it more of an authentic feel. That's not something I've tried yet, and I really want to explore the possibilities and the limitations of the Pod Go as it is, as a stock device, without having to pay money for more stuff, at least for a bit. I am going to start paying for things and see how it works for me and how it doesn't work for me in the future, but for now, you know, they offer this as an all-in-one, do-it-all device, and it should have the quality of cabinets in there to be tweakable enough to sound good, shouldn't it? Well, that's what I think, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on in future Pod Go videos that I do. So what did I think of the sounds overall then? Well, for me, there's a mixture. You know, the Black Spirit 200 has a clean tone that I love. The Les Paul just sort of pushes the clean channel on it up into a little bit of light drive. It's not overdrive, it just starts to break up, and it's really pleasing to my ear. And actually with the Pod Go, I didn't manage to dial that in. The Pod Go was cleaner. Now, the other thing where I noticed that the Pod Go doesn't quite match up to the Black Spirit 200 is kind of its depth of tone. In some ways, the Black Spirit 200 sounds like a 3D amp, where the Pod Go sounds like a 2D representation of it, if that makes any sense. There's a thickness to the clean tones, and there's harmonic overtones happening, which I certainly hear, which I didn't hear in the clean preset that I made on the Pod Go. Now, of course, that could just be the tones I've dialed in up to now. You know, there will be more options that I have with the Line 6 to get it even closer to that creamy edge of breakup clean sound, but for now I'm kind of not quite there with it. When I got to the crunch tones, I had a couple of different choices with the Pod Go. At first I added overdrive pedals to my cleanish Fender amp and realized that that really wasn't going to do it for me, so what I then did was went in and built another preset around a Marshall Plexi amp, and that gave me more of a mid push. It sounded more classic rocky to me, but again, for me personally, the tones, they just sound a bit hollower than that of the Black Spirit 200, which was on the clean channel with the Greer Lightspeed engaged. There's something about the Greer Lightspeed that always makes me sound better, and I'm actually disappointed that the Pod Go doesn't have a specific model of the Lightspeed in there, because it has so many other pedals that I love. But there we go. Once we got to the lead sounds, again, I kept the Pod Go on the Marshall amp setting that I'd used, the Plexi, but I added a Klon type drive to it, their Minotaur pedal as they call it. And that gave me some pretty thick and decent tones, especially through headphones, but it's a case of when you hear that directly back against the real amp, against the Black Spirit 200, that it doesn't really quite sound as thick and as good. I mean, I realise that at this point you kind of like tone A or you like tone B, because I think overall the quality is kind of there and it's two very different sounds. But for me personally, again, there's just more of an oomph, more of an overall push to the Black Spirit 200, which floats my boat more, and that was on the amp's lead channel with no effects pedals. Once we got up to metal, I was actually rather surprised with how good I thought the Pod Go was. Now, I had been hoping again that there would be some kind of heavy distortion drive pedal similar to the Rev G3 that I could put into it, but actually there is a Rev generator amplifier model in the Pod Go which I was then able to use, and I put a tube screamer in front of that, an 808 tube screamer, to kind of tighten it up a bit and just make it a bit fatter. What I really love about my Black Spirit 200's clean channel in combination with the Rev G3 is that it takes this kind of pleasingly pleasant clean tone and turns it into an absolute monster at the tap of a foot switch. Now, the Rev distortion tone is a more modern tone. It's like a modded Marshall. It has a lot of high end. It doesn't have that much bass. It has plenty of mids too, but it just has a pleasing tone. It chugs really well. It does all of the metal tones that I would need, in short. And I thought that I got a really, really nice metal tone out of the Pod Go. It wasn't really a Rev tone for me. I've played the Rev amps extensively. I've used the Rev G3 pedal for years. I've got the Rev G2 pedal as well. I've tried the G4 too, and I know what Rev sounds like. And the Pod Go, it doesn't really sound like that to me. I do have to say that I have watched videos by the likes of Glenn Fricker, where they A/B the Pod Go against their Rev products, and they get really, really close. But that's something that me, as a beginner, I'm not going to be able to touch for quite a while, and I think I'm going to probably need to use external IRs or cab sims in order to get my Line 6 sounding closer to the real thing. But that was the tones then. Overall, if you're not directly comparing the two devices, the Pod Go is a really, really good option, and I think it just falls down when you literally go amp, Pod Go, amp, Pod Go. I had extended sessions where I was just jamming away on the Pod Go, and it starts to just sound really, really good. It's a really, really good device, and I would have no problem taking this on the road with me to any events, or taking it on a tour or something like that, just to play as a practice amp in the hotel room or something like that. It's so simple because you can literally plug it in, plug your headphones in, you've got all your presets there, all the sounds you can ever want, and you can go and start doing your thing. So in that way, it's super practical. Of course, there are practical amps out there, and the Hughes Kettner Black Spirit 200 is one of those, but the Pod Go gives you those possibilities as well. And of course, you've got extra things like more foot switches built in, and the expression pedal here. So it is a pretty cool little device, and there is a lot of my brain that really wants to get more into the modeling thing. So very quickly then, what do I as a beginner like about the Pod Go, having had it for a few weeks? Well, I love the variety of tones that you've got in there and the options. I love its versatility and its flexibility and its connectivity as well. It's a fully modern product that is built for the 21st century guitarist and can do pretty much everything. What do I dislike about the Pod Go so far? Well, those options as well. It's a double-edged sword because you've got the options to do everything you want, but for me personally, I'm still in that state of option paralysis where I sort of think, you know, if I tweak the bias here, if I take the mic 3 inches away from the cabinet, is it going to change my tone? Is it going to make it better? What if I up the bias just a little bit? I have no idea. And you just go down rabbit holes and get lost. And that's something where it makes me want to just go back to my amp, turn on my pedals with 3 knobs, and you've got a great sound in 10 seconds. So that's something I also don't like. And the other thing that I have to mention that I don't necessarily dislike, but I'm not super happy with at this moment in time, is the fact that I've got pretty nice tones, but I feel like there are better tones out there, and I could be kind of coerced into paying extra money to get external IR products to make the Pod Go sound better. You know, I'm all for being able to buy extra things to make my rig sound better. You know, I've got a semi-addiction to guitar pedals, of course, but with the Pod Go, it's kind of a case of it's marketed as being a very affordable way to get any sound that you could want. It's an all-in-one product that does everything you need. And if that's the case, then I don't feel like I should be having to pay extra money for third-party IRs to make it sound better. Of course, it's all relative, and Line 6 do say that the Pod Go is the best in its class. And of course, we're not competing directly with boutique tube amplifiers that are hand-built and hand-wired in America or Europe here, are we? This is another world, of course. But at the same time, I do feel like it would be cool if I can get kind of to the same level as my proper amp with the Pod Go without having to pay more money for the privilege. So that's something I'm not quite super happy about yet, but I'm going on a journey with this Pod Go and that might change in the coming months. So what are my overall conclusions at this point then? Well, I'm a Line 6 newbie, I'm a pod newbie, I'm a modelling newbie, I've never had anything like this before, and I'm asking myself the question over and over now, could the Pod Go replace my entire rig? Could I end up at the position where I want to get rid of my Black Spirit 200 and all the cool pedals that I've got to go with it, and even the cabinets I use when I'm playing loud elsewhere, because the Pod Go can do all of that stuff? Well, the answer is actually, for me, a very surprising maybe, because I'm really enjoying the Pod Go. On the base level that I'm using it, it's pretty intuitive to use. You've got a lot of versatility in there. There's so many different tones to discover. There's so many different cool things you can do with changing the positions of the effects in your signal chain and so on. You could go so much deeper than I've gone in this video today, and I think over the coming months I will be trying to go deeper, but also kind of limiting it to kind of playing guitar as being the focus and not tweaking knobs as being the focus, because at the end of the day what I want to do with my rig is make music, and that's what I can do within 10 seconds of switching on my Black Spirit 200. I'm not quite there yet with the Pod Go in terms of dialing in all the tones that I would want, but there's plenty of online stuff for me to be watching, there's plenty of tutorial videos, and again, if I want to start spending money in the future, there's plenty of ways to give out my hard-earned cash to buy presets and to buy IRs to make this thing sound better, if that's what I want to do. But as I've said, I'd like to try and get it sounding as good as I can without having to spend any additional money. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Maybe if you're a newbie to the world of modelers and you're kind of considering dipping your toe into it, this was a bit useful. Maybe if you have questions, drop them down there. I'll answer them to the best of my ability, and hopefully there will be some more knowledgeable modeler people down there too who can help us out and start with a bit of a discussion. Do you have any other specific things you'd like to see me do with the Pod Go though? Would you like to see me recreate some famous rigs of famous players? Would you like me to do some kind of genre specific tones? Would you like me to just carry on the journey as I'm going, or would you like me to package this thing up and send it back to Yamaha? Just let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to do whatever the majority of you guys tell me. But so far I'm having a lot of fun with the Pod Go, and I look forward to having more fun with it in the upcoming months and maybe years. Let's see how it goes. That's it for today's video then. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you're still around, why not give the video a nice little like, or maybe give the Rich Words Music channel a cheeky subscription. It does help me. I'm trying to build a little community of like-minded musical individuals here, so if you can, that would be super cool. And if you enjoyed this video, there's plenty more similar ones that you can watch here and here as well. But that's been it for today then. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.